Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We are reading Vision 6, Unit 2. The name of the unit is Earthquake. And up till now, we have read 4 paragraphs. We will inshallah continue and read the 5th paragraph. Up till now, what we have studied is that there is a boy called Saranjan who was going to his aunt's house to enjoy with his cousins and enjoy the hiking trip that he had planned the next day. But on his way, earthquake began. And because of the earthquake, his head started to throb and quiver, and he quickly rushed back to his house to find out whether everyone was safe or not. Now let's read on to find out whether everyone was okay or not when he reached back home. What did he see? Pause the video here and quietly read paragraph number 5. The door was swinging wildly on its hinges when I finally reached home, and I could hear my mother screaming for my brothers and sisters to run out of the house. The cupboard's doors quivered and tumbled open, emptying all their contents. My sister yelled in pain as a pile of crockery smashed just above her head. I thought my whole house would tip over, the way everything swung, rocked, and fell. But Alhamdulillah, it did not suffer much damage. However, the earthquake was so severe that my city and other villages in northern Afghanistan were practically flattened. I could only thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that my family was safe. The night passed restlessly as tremors shook us awake every few minutes. We were terrified that the whole nightmare would reoccur. Prayers for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness were on our lips throughout the night. So they were really frightened all through the night, and that's why they were restless. And another thing that was keeping them awake was the shaking of the earth. So even after the earthquake, there were aftershocks. Slight earthquake shocks were still occurring, and that was making them awake. They were keeping them awake. They could not sleep. Okay, now let's look at some of the questions related to this paragraph. Okay, what happened to the door? And what happened to the cupboard doors? And what happened to a pile of crockery? Pause and answer. Okay, so what happened? The door of the house was swinging wildly, and the cupboard doors, what happened to them? They were quivering and they tumbled open. And what happened to the pile of crockery? It smashed right above his sister's head. Why were they not able to sleep comfortably? What did they do all night? Pause and answer. Yes, they were not able to sleep comfortably because of the tremors, the aftershocks. And what did they do all night? All night they kept awake and they were constantly making prayers. And they were asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His forgiveness. This is what they were doing all night. Okay, next paragraph. I will read this paragraph and you look at the questions and then find their answers. The next day, I hesitantly looked out of my window, carefully avoiding the sharp, ragged edges of the broken glass. Disastrous. Nearly every single house was upturned on its roof. It was a heart-rending sight, a catastrophe. With our limited resources, there was no way we or our government could cope with the calamity. Indeed, we later learned that our interior minister was forced to appeal for international help. Okay, so the first question is, why did Saranjan look out of the window? And then what had happened to his window glass? And what had happened to the houses around his house? What did the interior minister do to cope with the catastrophe? Pause and answer the questions. Yes, why did Saranjan look out of the window? He wanted to look out of the window to see what had happened and how much damage has occurred. And what had happened to his window glass? Because of the earthquake, it had broken, and there were several broken edges which were sharp, and they were ragged. They were not smooth. They were not even. And what had happened to the houses around his house? Several of them were upturned. They had collapsed. And what did the interior minister do to cope with the catastrophe? He had to appeal for international help. Okay, let's look at the meanings of some of the words. Ragged means not smooth. Disastrous means causing a lot of damage. Heart-rending is something which is very sad. Catastrophe is an event which causes disaster. Calamity also means catastrophe and disaster. So all these three words are synonymous. Appeal means request. Okay. Now in this paragraph, what I want you to do is that look up the words that are underlined in a dictionary. Pause and do this task. After the earthquakes abated and the electricity was restored, the beautiful sound of Adhan emanated from the mosque. The soothing call of the muezzin was a blessing and filled us with renewed faith and hope. In the distance, I could also hear someone recite the Holy Quran. My father, brothers, and I joined some people in the mosque to offer nawafil for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy in this hour of need. Okay, so what is the meaning of restored? Restored means to store again or come back. Emanated is to arise from. Soothing is something which is comforting, and renewed, refreshing. It refreshed their iman. Okay, so the question is, what happened when the electricity came back? So you have to write the answer. Okay, we'll pause here and continue from the next paragraph. Allah Hafiz.